I'm Patrick Watts and I'm the owner of Patrick Watts Racing, and we run the team Ladybird to Citroen C1s. We prepare a few cars for historic racing and prepare my own cars for historic racing, a few classic cars I've got. It's a bit of a hobby business. The C1 racing was brought about by a fantastic weekend I had up here with an old teammate of mine when I was doing touring cars, Simon Harrison. 24-hour race, come and do it with us. We're doing the Citroen C1 Championship with Amy this year.
I'm Amy Watts and I'm racing with Patrick Watts Racing, aka Ladybird. So at the moment I'm racing in the C1 Challenge, which is the only championship I've done to date. We have only got 60 cars on the grid this year, which seems like a lot, but when you consider last year was 100, I mean a load of completely equal cars. It's purely down to skill, and a lot of people are used to sort of Formula One. We've got these massive gaps between cars and stuff.
But they do have quite a lot in common with a Formula One car. A C1 and an F1 is flat out through Copse Corner. The only slight difference is the fact that the Formula One car is doing about 180 through there. We're doing maybe 80. But they're tremendous fun to race.
You've got these cars barreling into the corner exactly equally matched. You know, you can't just put your foot down and floor it. And I think that's what makes these events so exciting. It's so close. There's fractions of a second between first and 15th, you know?
It doesn't matter where you are on the grid, whether you're towards the back or towards the front, you're going to have a race. And you have plenty of time down the straights to think about your tactic come each corner. It's a little bit like a game of chess as opposed to a game of tennis. There are boring parts in this racing because when a car does go off in the dark, they will invariably put out a safety car. But that's where the C1 comes into its own. You've always got something good on the radio to listen to in the safety car period.
And that's kind of what we're doing this weekend. We are racing for 24 hours flat. There's 4 drivers in our team, so we rotate every 2 hours and hope that the car will go on until 6 p.m. tomorrow night.
We had a bit of a problem in testing yesterday, Friday, and Amy unfortunately went into the gravel. And invariably, as what happens with Citroen C1s, they fall onto their roofs like sort of beetles and waving their legs about.
I made a real rookie error and ended up trying to avoid a gravel pit and instead rolled into the gravel pit.
And so we had to replace the windscreen and whatever. So Silver Lake, who actually sponsor the championship, are in the garage next to us, fortunately. And they came to the rescue with a spare windscreen, people to help, a porta power to push the roof back up and make the rather ovalized windscreen aperture square again. And we stuck that screen in. Now, I will say that we've had a bit of an accident on this race, and the back of the car's been beaten up when Orlando had a spin, and the back of the car is like totally written off. The front looks okay, but the car that hit us up the back, his front is not okay, but his back is okay. That wreck of a car that Orlando stepped out of, the front end is being put to good use, and it will be racing towards the end of this race, and it will have the Motul stickers on it because they're taking the bonnet. We're using Motul's gearbox oil, we're using Motul's engine oil, and their axle grease, which is basically the wheel bearing grease. And the reason we use these, we go for the biggest advantage we can on a series which is totally restricted on what you can do, but you can put in different oils.
Oil is such a big thing in the cars. I mean, you've got to have the density completely right, and we use Motul because Motul oil is the oil used for motor racing. It's the standard, everyone knows it. It's reliable, the quality control's great. And we've gone for a thin oil that causes less friction, but it's just not too thin, you know, it hits the nail right on the head. And that's why we choose Motul, because you can have that flexibility.
Motul is, it goes back years. It's synonymous with motorsport. It's synonymous with quality.
Having the support of Motul on our team, it validated it for me. It sounds ridiculous, but it made things real. It went for this little idea that me and my dad had to race together, and suddenly this idea was taking off, and we have Motul on board, and they want to, you know, work with us and sponsor us, and it was amazing. I'm chuffed to be able to have that access to such a great product.
If we can get into the top 20, I think we've achieved our ambition for these young lads.
This weekend, I think, it's hard because I don't want to jinx anything, if I'm honest. I would be really happy with there's 60 cars on the grid, as I said. There's some really professional teams out there, so anywhere, the top 20 would be great. That would be amazing. I'd be very happy with that result. Next year, I'd like to be in the top 5.